Okay, here we are, two non-critics, episode nobody knows, and I am non-critic Dustin, and with me as always.
Non-critic Will.
All right, and tonight we're talking about something I've meant to write articles about. I've meant to do other things about it, but I never really had the chance until now. The 1996 Doctor Who TV movie. It aired for one night on Fox, opposite the final episode of Roseanne, which is why nobody watched it. And, yeah. Anyway, so I figured we'd start off by talking a little bit about our earliest impressions of Doctor Who. Anyone who knows me knows that for most of my life, I was obsessed with Star Wars. Well, now that has been replaced by Doctor Who. And my very, very first memory of Doctor Who was when I was about 14 or 15. I was at a bookstore, and I went there with my parents, because my parents, they each had a book series that they loved. My dad loved reading The Wheel of Time. My mom loved reading The Book of Truth. I felt like I needed my own series that I could read and talk about. And what they had there were several shelves of these books called Doctor Who. And I remember pulling a book off the shelf and looking at it, and it was one with Tom Baker, who was the fourth Doctor. I remember thinking, well, this looks really neat, but I don't know where to start. And I asked my dad, I was like, what's this show? I mean, what? And I didn't say what's the show. I was like, do you know what this is? My dad's like, yeah, I've seen it before on PBS. It's this British show. It's been on for a long time. I said, oh, okay, but I don't know where to start. So not knowing that I could have started anywhere, that's the beauty of Doctor Who. And then I saw a few episodes of the Tom Baker stuff when I was, probably within the next couple of years on BBC America, I think it was. And then I didn't see it for a while, and then one day, years later, I was homesick from work, and they had just put the new Doctor Who, the 2005 to now series, on Netflix. I think they were up to season 3 at that point. And I'd read about it, and all these people said how much they loved it. Like Neil Gaiman, one of my favorite writers, used to talk about it all the time. I was like, well, if Neil loves it. And I sat there, and I just watched it and was instantly fell in love with it. And I've been obsessed ever since. What about you? I think it probably has to... I probably introduced it to you, but I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, you did. You introduced it to me when the newer seasons came out, and I was introduced to Doctor Who with David Tennant being the Doctor. My first impressions of it, I was just like, this is it seemed it seemed kiddish, like a kiddish show. This simple-minded, this guy going on all these adventures in a damn box that travels through time. And actually, when you go inside, what is a TARDIS? You go inside this box, and it's a big-ass apartment. So, with all these different gadgets and everything, that was just my simple mind, like, okay.
I thought you were saying the show was simple-minded. I was about to reach through the internet and slap you. No.
Yeah, I know. He's about to choke. He's about to choke the shit out of me. No, but my mindset at the time, I was just like, okay, this looks interesting. Like, it's not boring. It just looks interesting. I just need to learn more about it. So supposedly this guy is immortal, or not. He just has 13 lives. We'll get into that later, but he has 13 lives and whatnot, different transformations. It was all confusing at first because non-critic Dustin was just hitting me with everything all at once. Like, wait, 13 transformations, a screwdriver that opens a damn door, and why does that little box look like an apartment when you go inside, and what the hell? And he goes back and forth through time. Does he ever meet up with himself anytime like that? So, but as non-critic Dustin explained it more, and I actually got to sit down and actually watch some episodes, I had a better understanding of it, and it was a very interesting show, and it still is. I haven't been watching it as much recently, just due to all the BS I do with military and stuff, and in me, I just watch random things just to broaden my horizons. But I got to really get start getting back into watching the Doctor Who series.
Yeah, you
But
have.
Hmm?
I was going to say, I remember you watching a lot of David Tennant stuff. You may have actually seen most, if not all, of David Tennant stuff, and you've seen maybe a handful of Matt Smith. And you've really got to dig into Matt Smith, man.
Not even, you know what? Not even a handful of Matt Smith. Just like a few episodes. I watch actually more of Christopher Eccleston's episodes than I did Matt Smith's episodes, because I was actually trying to go episode to episode to episode of Christopher Eccleston until he transforms into David Tennant, and then I was just trying to follow through, and at some point I just stopped.
Right. I remember you being a very big fan of Blink. I think you watched. I've watched back in one of my old apartments where I was showing you Doctor Who. I remember coming home and you'd be there watching Blink again. Like you watched it like 3 or 4 times, I think, and which is good because I always say, and a lot of people say this, and it's time tested so far. If you're not into Doctor Who, but you're even remotely curious, watch Blink. It tells you everything you need to know. It sets up everything perfectly, and it's a damn good episode. And I actually have, there's this guy I used to work with who had no interest in Doctor Who, but after listening to me talk about it so much, he's like, I'm just going to have to watch it. And I said, watch Blink. He came in the next day, said he watched Blink, and immediately went to the first season of with Christopher Eccleston and just started watching it.
You know, well, before we actually get into the movie, I'll be real quick about it, but my impression of Blink, I feel that with Blink, that can even be a movie on its own. It can be, because it's just creepy. Now, for those that don't know what the hell we're talking about Blink, it's about this certain this planet, because the Doctor travels to all these different planets through different times or whatnot, and there's this one planet where there's these things called the Weeping Angels. The Weeping Angels are statues. They're angelic statues, with the wings and everything, and they look like any statue, just beautiful. Oh, it's an angel and everything. But the thing about Blink is that the Doctor says, and I quote, "Whatever you do, don't blink." Like, if you close the split second that you close your eyes, they can move at super speed, light speed, to try to grab you and catch you. And so, like, once you blink, they'll be 10, 20 feet closer to you. Now, and it's creepy because their face turns into like a horrid creature with fangs, sharp teeth.
Yeah, like a weird vampire face. Like when you have vampires that mouths stretch out.
It's just like it's just all out. It just stuck there. Now, don't turn your back on it, because then it'll grab you. Don't close your eyes, because it'll grab you. Now, the moment it grabs you, some will happen where once it grabs you, it takes you back in time, like way back in time, to a point where like you were never born, and there's no way to go back into the future. So you're going to be living in that time zone, whatever it is. So like that would suck for me if you put me back in slavery times. That would suck.
Pretty much anywhere in the past, it's probably going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to suck for me.
As Louis C.K. said, if black guy goes back in time, it's going to suck no matter where he goes. White guy, it's going to be awesome.
That's so fucked up. But then there's later episodes with Matt Smith that the Weeping Angels are actually just killing you.
Yeah, which isn't as, I don't know. I mean, we're not talking about the movie right now, but the whole idea of those angels, apparently the angels in Blink are a specific kind, like they're weak or something. I don't know. They live off of the life you would have lived, your potential energy. So sending you back in time, they feed off of the life you would have had in your regular time zone, which is a neat idea. And he even said they're the only creatures in the universe to kill you nicely. They send you back in time and let you live to death. But But I'm not sure how I feel about the weeping angels that rip your throat out and snap your neck. And I don't
That's
know.
just
It
crazy.
just, I
That's
don't know. I don't think the weeping angels are a very good monster. I think they're good in Blink, and I think they can be good, but when they're just like a monster. But anyway,
yeah.
you're saying Blink could be its own movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just with that, that's what really got me hooked into Doctor Who because yeah, those type of creatures, they're really freaky. Like they can really creep you out. I mean, the fact that it says don't blink, and if you blink, just a blink, a second, they're like I said, 10, 20 feet in front of you. Like they can literally be right in your face, just like that. So um, that is one of the major, I would say, creatures in Doctor Who that got me interested in the show. That's all I'm gonna
So,
say about that.
so anyway, back to the Doctor Who movie, I guess. It came out, like I said, in '96. The story of how this movie came to be is infinitely more fascinating than the movie itself. Um, I won't get too far into it, but basically, for years, this dude named Philip Siegel was trying to get a new Doctor Who television series produced in America, joint production with the BBC, and it just wasn't happening. Finally, they got the opportunity to make this TV movie with the hopes of it serving as a pilot that if the ratings were high enough, they could do a series. That didn't happen. But the movie itself, what did you think?
um, okay, let's get to that. The movie itself, I thought it was a pretty good movie. It had for me more creepy points than you would normally see in a TV show, just because it's. I felt that the movie was actually made for more of an adult audience. I would say. Um, there are certain things in the movie that reminded me of actually a movie that we critiqued before called The Hidden. There's just certain scenes in this Doctor Who movie that reminds me of The Hidden, like with transferring alien species into someone else's body,
Mm-hmm.
and also with the body decaying because it's using up its life force. So that reminded me of The Hidden. Um, but aside from that, I do like the movie. I thought it was very interesting, and it was a different view for me for just Doctor Who in general because it felt darker because of the fact that it had more creepy scenes and whatnot. It felt a little bit darker for
Mm-hmm.
me. So, um,
Well, yeah, I agree. It's much more violent, like overtly violent than Doctor Who. Doctor Who does have violence in it. It's usually fairly playful. When they need it to be dramatic and serious, it's very dramatic and serious. But I mean, like one of the first scenes in this movie is like two gangs going after each other with guns. I mean,
yeah.
the the way what they do in Doctor Who. I'm just going to assume most people, if anybody watches this, they're probably familiar with Doctor Who. But the Doctor, like you said, he can regenerate his body, his cells, 12 times, which would result in 13 incarnations. And
Mhm.
in this one, it begins with the seventh incarnation of the Doctor, one of my personal favorites. And the way he dies is pretty like gritty. Like usually, like the Doctor goes down in battle or he falls. Like one Doctor,
Off
the
a
sixth
bike.
Doctor just kind of falls. But the thing is, he doesn't fall off a bike. But the last thing they say is he's going to go on an exercise bike. But anyway, they don't show him on the bike. But like I mean, usually it's pretty tame.
Yeah.
Like either the blaze of glory, or he's forced to regenerate, or he's just old. You know what I mean? Like it's just this is the dude gets shot, and and then he goes to a hospital. The doctors don't know how to deal with him. They think their equipment's faulty, and their
Because he has
anesthetic.
two hearts.
Yep. and which I thought was interesting because I've always thought, like, what if an alien? I haven't always thought this, but it's something that you would think of in a movie. What if an alien does go to a hospital? They always make it seem like, oh, if this alien goes to a hospital, the government would immediately want to snatch it up. And you think, well, no, they would probably think their equipment's fucked up if it looks like a human.
Yeah.
So the anesthetic they put in him actually keeps him dead longer than he should have been, so it fucks up his regeneration. Like the scene where they're like using the defibrillator on him and stuff, and they're like, Claire, that's a pretty intense, like ER type scene.
He's kicking and going into a seizure and everything.
Yeah, like you see the doctor go in cardiac arrest, and it's like, yeah, it's like watching ER, like one of those shows. I was gonna say General Hospital, which I've never seen. It's soap opera, but what I meant to say was that other hospital show that was really big. I can't remember what it is. Crossing Jordan, maybe? I don't know. But
Grey's Anatomy or something like that.
Some shitty hospital show, but. So that's pretty surprising that they would go sort of real world with it, and yeah, so I agree with you on that, and I also agree with the similarities with The Hidden, and I mentioned to you when you brought it up to me earlier that that's one of my problems with the movie. Not that it reminds me of The Hidden, but the whole plot of the movie hinges upon the idea of this rival Time Lord who's kind of like the Doctor's arch nemesis, the Master. And he's probably the worst part of the movie. I'm not a big fan of Eric Roberts in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he decided to play the Master kind of this way. I don't know if it was just written that way. But it was just kind of corny and over the top and stupid, and I didn't like it. Actually, the first time I saw this movie, I didn't realize I was watching a fan edit on YouTube. I didn't realize I was watching that, and they cut out all the scenes with the Master. So they just made it seem like something happens with the TARDIS. The Doctor crashes in America, in San Francisco in 1999, and he regenerates. The Eye of Harmony opens up, and everything starts to go to hell, and he has to fix it. And I was like, this is bad. This isn't bad. And then I saw the version with the Master, and I was like, oh, there's this whole other thing going on that sort of ruins it. I think that if they had sort of stuck with some TARDIS fucks up, Doctor dies, the TARDIS is still fucked up, and that's causing this weird interdimensional thing happening. I was like, that would have been a fine movie.
Yeah.
But everything with the Master just feels just like so corny.
What the hell?
And I mean, it's not a perfect movie. It's certainly not a perfect Doctor Who story. But for what it was, I think it still holds up if you can get past the Master.
Oh, I'll try.
I mean, the movie looks great. It doesn't really look like a TV show, which a lot of people have pointed out. It looks like a movie.
Yeah, I thought I was actually watching a movie.
Yeah, like they shot it like a movie, and the production value was pretty strong, even especially for like a science fiction series in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've always liked it, but they had definitely its drawbacks. Like the Will Sasso character, Will Sasso from Mad TV.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
Just a super goofy fat guy for no reason.
I think that was just for.
What were you gonna say?
I said I think that was just for more money, more better production. Just more money, more fans. Just having those big names like that.
I don't know I don't think Will Sasso was on Mad TV yet at the time. I think he joined Mad TV in like the late 90s, like 98, 99, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's still silly. What'd you think of his companion, Grace?
Grace? I thought she was an interesting character. She was so Well, she was actually the doctor that was actually trying to do, not the doctor, but she was actually a doctor that was trying to bring him back. When he was in his his first form when the movie started, she was actually in the operating room trying to bring him back with a defibrillator and everything, and she was upset, and she was the one that actually said he has two hearts, and they're just like, no, what the hell are you talking about? Like, she was dead on, like, she was dead on about, hey, he has two hearts. And her character, she just was always trying to find out the truth. That's how I viewed it. She was always trying to find out the truth. She was a very interesting character. And then the moment he was able to convince her that he's not of this world, the world is, as you know, it is going to be coming to an end. You know, once it hits midnight and stuff. Once he convinced her, she was just on board, but doing whatever she has to help him out. So I wouldn't say she's a very strong character, but she was definitely a good support for the Doctor.
Yeah, I liked her a lot, actually. When I first saw it, I didn't like her very much, but rewatching it for this, I thought she's kind of the perfect Doctor Who companion because she's very romantic. You know, the first time you see her, she's at the opera and she's got a single tear coming down, and she's an on-call doctor, and you see her running through the hospital in her glamorous gown and everything, and she's got, you know, she wants to help. Yeah, she's got a good heart. She wants to take care of people, and so I would have liked if the show had gone on if she stayed with him, even though at the end she doesn't go with him. But I thought she would have been a good companion, really. And that brings up an interesting thing. You probably don't know this, or you're not aware of this, but this movie is fairly controversial for two reasons. The first being incidental, because they retcon it completely, being that the Doctor's half human. That was a huge for Doctor Who fans. That was a huge fuck you. Like,
I actually did notice that because I was like, wait, half human? Where the hell are you? Like, I actually questioned in my head, like, where the hell are y'all getting your information from? He's half human.
Yeah.
I didn't remember to mention that, but yeah, I did catch that.
Yeah, they wanted to make him half human, maybe to make him kind of like Spock from Star Trek. I don't know. And, so a lot of people hated that, but the way they retcon it now is to say that because he was still regenerating, that kind of screwed with his head. So
because he didn't know who he was.
Right, and then the other thing is that is the first time. Now, you being so familiar with David Tennant's Doctor probably didn't even flinch at this. That's the first time he makes out with a companion. That's never happened before. The Doctor has never been a romantic interest until then. And and what I think is so interesting about that is you can, from the context of Doctor Who timeline, you go from the classic Doctor Who, where he's never been a love interest or a romantic interest, and then you go to this movie, which begins with that classic Doctor, moves into this eighth incarnation, who very much is a romantic interest, and then it leads into the modern day Who, where they continue that. And
at the moment I can't recall a David Tennant episode where he kissed one of his companions. I can't recall an episode like that.
It happens all the time. He kissed Rose a bunch of times. He kissed Madame de Pompadour in the episode The Girl in the Fireplace.
De Pompadour.
And he kissed Martha, but he was doing that so that she would have a bit of his DNA on him and hide him. I remember that. The David Tennant Doctor was very much the the romantic hero doctor because he fell in love with Rose and Rose fell in love with him and blah blah blah. But you see that sort of progression, and that's what Doctor Who is about. It's about a progression.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Paul McGann as the Doctor?
I think he played really well as the Doctor. Because I'm only going from Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, and Matt Smith. So that's all I know. That's all I know. So seeing a different face, he pulled. I don't want to say he pulled it off nicely because he was actually before David Tennant and them, but he did a great job. I actually wouldn't mind seeing him, seeing his episodes or whatnot of Doctor Who.
Right. No, I completely agree, and the sad thing is because there's only this movie.
Yeah.
If there's anything that like watching Doctor Who teaches you, is that it can take a while for a character to become clearly defined. Like David Tennant's Doctor went through a lot of changes. Matt Smith, if you watch the first few episodes of his run and then you watch the last few episodes of his run, he owns that character. I mean, he's great in the first few episodes, but by the end, like it's just the Doctor is Matt Smith. Matt Smith is the Doctor. He comes into his own. And Paul McGann didn't really get that, but from the time he did have, I think he pulled it off very, very well.
Yes.
I like a lot of times. I think people tend to, when it comes to sort of like short stories based on this Doctor, because although he only had one movie, his version of the Doctor is technically one of, if not the longest running version, because after this, they had something like almost 10 years worth of comic strips in Doctor Who magazine, comic books, novels, and radio dramas where Paul McGann actually played the Doctor in the radio dramas. And so there's a lot of different versions of him, but a lot of the short stories and things I've read, they tend to write him sort of boring, and the Doctor is known for being kind of eccentric. And I think what they miss is he does have some nice eccentricities in the movie, like the scene where he's trying out the shoes, and he's talking about Gallifrey, and he's filled with all this like joy at this memory he's retrieved of Gallifrey, and he's describing it, and he's just like, yes! And Grace says, what? And he goes, these shoes! They fit perfectly! And he's like, yes! And he just kind of runs off, and that's a perfect Doctor moment, I think. He goes from like this grandiose, almost poetic speech into sort of childlike glee because his shoes fit. That's perfect to me. And so I agree with you, it would have been nice to have a bit more of him. And I know there's one last thing you wanted to bring up, and that's the one character in the movie you did not like.
Woo! Okay, I'm going to have at it. The one character, at the beginning, when the Doctor, when the TARDIS landed in San Francisco and everything, when you mentioned at the beginning there was a gang war. Well, one, there was a character named Lee.
The Asian child.
The Asian. I don't want to disrespect anybody. I don't know if he was Chinese, Japanese, Laotian. I'm just gonna say he's Asian. He was part of that gang war. Now he was actually about to get shot up by 3-4 people. He was about to get shot up, and then the TARDIS actually landed in front of him, which blocked him from getting shot. And when the Doctor came out, that's when the Doctor got shot or whatnot. Lee took his stuff. He took the screwdriver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other things of the Doctor's. And as he called the ambulance. The ambulance picked him up. He was in the hospital van with the ambulance. And he had to sign his name, so he signed some bullshit name or whatnot. Which, actually, the dude that was in the ambulance is the Master. Well, before he was the Master, before he got possessed or well, not possessed, but
that whole thing was weird.
yeah.
I don't understand it. But
But
anyway.
the whole reason why I I felt there was no point in Lee's character. Um, the reason why is because like Lee, okay, I felt he could have had a stronger role. He was just, I'm sorry, he was a little bitch. Like he was just somebody that followed the master around left and right because once the master took over that body, he found Lee because Lee's the one that had the doctor's equipment, and he just became just the biggest bitch and just, oh, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth, master, and blah blah blah. Okay, I understand you don't want to get killed because this guy looks freaky, his eyes are weird, you don't want to get killed, but you're just a bitch. Like he was a bitch. Like I couldn't. Oh my god! Like I felt there was no point in his character.
Well, there's one thing they didn't. I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's one thing they didn't really delve into, which is the master has the ability of mind control.
Yeah.
And he uses mind control on him. But I think if you didn't know that, you'd not understand why Lee listens to him the first time. Because if you notice, when Lee's in the TARDIS and he sees the Master and they're kind of going back and forth, and the Master flashes in his eyes, and then all of a sudden Lee sort of like walks towards him like this. They didn't mention that he has mind control. I knew that, but I mean, but anyway,
you know that thank you because that makes perfect sense now. Because I was just like, why are you being such a bitch? But makes perfect sense now. Still don't like him. I just really felt that there was no point for Lee's character. Like even at the end, near the end, where the doctor's trying to convince Lee that he's not going to help you. He's not doing this for your safety. The world is going to come to an end as you know it. He's not going to give you riches or anything. The master does one specific thing that I was just like, oh man, that's his bitch. He goes up to Lee and puts his arm around Lee and kisses Lee on the side of the head. And I'm like, wow, if you're not a big bitch, that looks like a prison scene. But anyway, so you can understand my little inkling of happiness when he snapped his neck. Because I was like, thank you, get him out of here, thank you, waste this character. But brought him back though. I mean, spoiler, but I don't know if anybody's gonna watch this. But spoiler, Doctor brings him back. Woohoo! But I just really, I just did not like Lee. Like I just felt there was no point. Like
he was a plot device character. That's the only reason his character exists. He was the guy getting shot at, which is why the Doctor gets shot. He was the tool the Master used to open the Eye of Harmony, which screwed everything up. He was just there to fulfill the script needed danger, so they put a moron in the way, which was Lee. That's all he was.
Yeah.
He was not a character at all. And that's a shame. They could have done something with him, but they didn't.
Yeah.
There's no real redemption to him either. I mean, it's still at the, if you remember, well, I guess kind of at the end of the movie, he has those bags of gold dust, which I guess it's dust of gold, and he offers to give it back to the Doctor, like, oh, I learned my lesson. The Doctor's like, oh no, keep it. And he's like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. He's like, kick ass. And like, it shows that he didn't change too much, but I guess at least he offered to give it back instead of stealing it.
But overall, just to sum this up, overall, I did love. I did like. I love Doctor Who, but that movie, I liked it. It was okay. There was things that I could have left out of the movie, like Lee,
right.
Or just the actor who played the Master. That just no. But overall, it was a good movie.
Sorry, Eric Roberts, you're no good.
Sorry, Eric. My bad. I mean, but it was. I don't care. You probably don't even care that I'm saying this. You're getting paid. So, sorry. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Overall, that was a good movie. It was on the creepier side, the darker side of Doctor Who. So, I enjoyed it.
Me too. I think a lot of people, I've shown it to some people who didn't really like it. I don't think they gave it a fair chance. They went into it deciding they weren't going to like it, and they didn't like it. I think, again, production value is great. Something I didn't mention, but I want to now. The music is fantastic. The performances of everyone except for the Master and Lee, pretty spot on. And you know,
Master and Lee?
It's amazing that the movie got made, to be honest with you. And
yeah,
there we go. So that's 1996 Doctor Who. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. Rent it or something. And there you go. So we'll be back soon with another movie. This time, Non-Critic Will's decision. But until then, I'm Non-Critic Dustin.
And I'm Non-Critic Will.
And go watch some Doctor Who. It's totally worth it.